Hello, everybody. I wanted to share something that I experienced recently, and I thought it would be a good way to just make a quick video about it. Settle in here. All right. So, in November, I was invited to give a talk at a place called Mudunahalli, which is an hour south of Bangalore. South, I don't know whether it's south or north, but it's an hour from the Bangalore airport. And I've been invited by the Sathya Sai group to give a talk on his birthday celebrations. And I agreed to give that talk. It was a talk for hundreds of youth from all over the world. And when I got there, then I realized that there's a lot more to the story than I expected. So I'm actually putting my thoughts together as I'm sharing this. I'm just seeing what's the best way to share this experience. So maybe I'll backtrack a bit and then I'll come back to the story. So in 2007, when I was still a Buddhist monk, I had gone to visit many ashrams all over India, and I'd spent several days at each of these ashrams, and I'd gone with a couple of friends, another monk and also my friend Sunit. And we went and we stayed at many different ashrams, and one of the ashrams we stayed at was in Puttaparthi, which is the ashram of Sri Sathya Sai Baba, who was alive at the time. And I remember going there, and I remember having a very significant dream while I was there. It was a dream where it was revealed to me that every single perspective is internally consistent, is internally valid. And every person in this world sees the world through their lens, and it's true for them. You know, the way they see it, that's how the world appears to them. And specifically, I was shown how within us are different levels of consciousness. In India, these are called the chakras. And at each level of consciousness, each cluster of energy shows the world in a particular way. And depending on how clear and distorted it is, the world appears like that. So, in that dream, it was revealed to me that at every single chakra, the world appears different. Yatha drishti tatha shrishti, something I often say. The way you see it is the way you experience it. We also had darshan, which is the blessings of the teacher, Sri Sathya Sai Baba. He was already quite old at the time. And there was a very large crowd, so there were thousands of people, and we were sitting there, and I saw him in the distance. And honestly, I didn't feel very much. It was a large crowd, there were a lot of people, and he was there in the distance. And I've personally never been looking for a guru. I've never been drawn to the idea of a guru. I always feel that the guru is within. And while I respected the devotion of the crowd, and I also respected all the selfless humanitarian work he was doing, I honestly can't say I was that drawn to the whole setup, or I was that drawn to him in particular. I've always been more inclined towards, maybe you can call it a Gyan Marg, which is like a path of wisdom and self-introspection. And my sense was that Sri Sathya Sai Baba was sharing more a path of Karma Yoga, which is one of supporting others, loving others, helping others. And that's fine, it just didn't feel the most, the thing that drew me the most, right? So that was that. I had another experience where I had a friend, Ram Bhaskar, in Chennai, and I was still a monk at the time, and he had invited me to stay with him at his home. And if I remember correctly, his mother had a dream where she saw Sathya Sai Baba in her dream, and she kind of complained to him, "You're not coming to Chennai, it's been so long you haven't come to Chennai, and I'm old, I can't come to see you in Puttaparthi." So in her dream, he said, "I'm coming to your home." And he converted himself into me. And the next day, or next 1 or 2 days later, I was at their home, and she was like, "Wow, you've come!" And he came to me in the dream, and he said he's going to come through you. So I found that quite fascinating. So since then, I've stayed at their home many times in Chennai. So anyway, coming back to the story, while I from a distance was watching all the things that Sri Sai Baba was doing, I can't say that I was particularly very personally drawn to him. I was personally much more drawn to the Buddha and to wisdom teachings like Sri Raman Maharshi and things. So I was invited to give this talk at Mudnahalli, and when I go there, they tell me that while Sathya Sai Baba has passed away now, I think he passed away in 2011, if I'm not mistaken, he is now teaching in his light body. So I said, "What do you mean he's teaching in his light body?" They say that his activity continues, and there are certain people who are able to experience him and see him, and he speaks through them or to them, and they translate. And I found that all very intriguing. I thought, that's interesting, I haven't heard about this. So anyway, I had an open mind, and I went to this place. And it's a beautiful little ashram. It's got a lot of schools as part of it, schools and colleges. And I was immediately struck by the energy of the place. I think I'm just someone who, over the years, I tend to be sensitive to energy. I tend to be sensitive to how things feel, right? And I right away noticed that my meditation there was just went so deep right away. And I could feel the purity in the air. It turns out that this ashram is in a place which was the Lord Rama's teacher. Was it Ved Vyas? I'm forgetting the rishi. What is the rishi? Was Vyas or Valmiki? I'm forgetting the name of the rishi. His teacher's ashram was there. And so this is actually a very ancient Tapobhumi. This is the land of spiritual practice for a very long time. So we were there, and I gave a talk, and there were people from all over the world. This was a very large event where people from all over the world come, musicians that come from all over the world. It was also a musical festival. And I gave a talk there. That talk is on YouTube for you to watch. Maybe I'll share the link in a bit for that. And something about me just felt very drawn to this place. And I felt palpably the spiritual energy of this place. And much more so actually than I actually felt in Puttaparthi when I went there years back. And I was very intrigued. And so the way it works is there's a person called Madhusudan. And Madhusudan was a student of one of the schools or the colleges of Sri Sathya Sai Baba. And he began getting guided by Sri Sathya Sai Baba, more and more so. And he of course was very drawn to him, was very devoted to him. He actually set aside one whole room of his apartment for Sathya Sai Baba. He made it very comfortable, he put a chair there, and he'd go there every day and he'd worship. And then he began getting a vision of Sathya Sai Baba. And he would speak to him, and Sai Baba would speak back to him. This was while Sai Baba was still alive. And while he had these visions, a part of him thought that he's hallucinating. Ultimately it's imagination. So he's hallucinating, and he's just imagining these things. And one day he actually spoke back to that vision, and he said, this is an imagination, isn't it? This is just hallucination, isn't it? And Swami is what they called him. Swami said that, no, it's not. It's real. And to prove it to you, in 10 minutes, your doorbell will ring. And this friend of yours will bring you breakfast. And he said, how could that be? And 10 minutes later, sure enough, the doorbell rings. And this friend of his who lives in a different part of Bangalore has come with breakfast. He says, what are you doing here? And he says, well, my wife made really good breakfast today, and I thought of you, and I felt like giving it to you. And bye, I'm going to office now. So Madhusudan was like this, instance after instance was shown to him that actually this is not just something he's imagining. And when Swami passed away, then he was very distraught because the light body of Swami who was coming in his house had told him that he's not going to die yet. And so when he died, he said, no, I'm here, I'm not dead. And he thought that he's really going to come back to life. So he really, he said, no, he hasn't died, he's just pretending to die, he's going to come back. But he actually had died. And so he felt very, very disappointed that the light body lied to me. And it wasn't true. And Swami said, if I say something and it comes true, then it's very easy to have devotion. But if I say something and it doesn't come true and you still have faith, then that's true devotion. So for the next 3-4 years, he trained him in a variety of ways. There's a very fascinating book he's written. It's called The Story. Can you see it? The Story Divine. And this is the whole story of how this whole initiation, very, very unique initiation with the subtle form, the light body of Sri Sathya Sai Baba, how it trained this person, Madhusudan. And I know that some of this, what I'm sharing, is just it challenges our normal logical way of looking at things. But just keep an open mind. That's how I just went in with an open mind. Don't believe, don't disbelieve. Just go with it. So Madhusudan, when I was at this place, Madhusudan walked in, and apparently he's emptied himself to the extent that the light body of Swami can enter him, or at least is next to him, and speaks through him or as him, right? So this is a process of surrendering and emptying yourself and allowing higher consciousness to take over. And so while he's still Madhusudan, there are times when he invokes Swami, and then he's representing Swami and he's speaking for him. So I had a brief interaction with him where they introduced me as Nithya Shanti, as someone who's teaching and things. And he looked at me and smiled and says, "Come back." So all right. So I enjoyed going to that ashram. I enjoyed being there, and I felt I will go back. So I've just spent, I think, 11 days at this ashram, and it actually turned out I was going to spend 2 days, but very interesting circumstances led to all my other plans mysteriously evaporating, including hotel bookings that I'd made at Tiruvannamalai, just evaporating. Even though I had a confirmation email from them, the hotel said, we have no such booking with you. And what happened was 11 days of staying in Mudnahalli, full of deep inner experiences, full of deep, what can you say? It's like inner guidance, inner unfolding, deepest intuitions things that I have from years back, intentions I've made, or just an inner knowing, getting validated on the outside again and again and again. So this is like what can you say? It's like a coherent energy field. You enter this place and things start happening very quickly. You think of something and somebody talks about the very same thing. You have a question and somebody comes and answers it. It's a place of, I literally, my diary, I filled almost 25-30 pages of just coincidence after coincidence, synchronicity after synchronicity. Endless. And while I must say that the heart was very comfortable there, but my mind, of course, was still a little doubtful. What is all of this? What's going on here? Light body, is it really true? This could just be a gigantic hoax, right? But little by little, the experiences start adding up and adding up and adding up, and the mind just has to shut up and say, listen, it's beyond, the mind just has to realize that this is beyond my understanding. This is beyond logic, right? What's going on here is beyond logic. So while personally I was not that impressed with Sathya Sai Baba in the past, because I felt, why do we have to do so many miracles? My idea is, Sathya Sai Baba is famous for manifesting things and giving vibhuti ash from his hands and doing all kinds of very interesting miracles. But for me, true wisdom was never about miracle. It was never about showing these things. It was more about internalizing and self-realizing. Miracles were more of a distraction. But as I opened my mind, I realized that actually miracles are a distraction for a seeker, for one who's on the path. Being drawn to siddhis or these kind of supernatural manifestations is for someone who's on the path, that is definitely a distraction. But for someone who's already fully realized, not necessarily so, right? And who are we to judge? So, little by little, the cynical mind, the questioning mind, the mind that wasn't sure, had to listen to the heart. And the heart was completely just quiet. There was so much silence inside. And everything happened very beautifully. One thing led to the other. Lots of everything I've known just kind of came together so beautifully, so simply. Just everything just sat as is, right? So after being there for about 5 or 6 days, maybe a little longer, 7 or 8 days, he comes up to me smiling, and he calls me to him. So I come, and this is Madhusudan, and he's representing Swami. And he just waves his hand, and he manifests his ring. And And he gives me this ring and he says, I want you to travel the world and share the teachings of truth, right? And I felt very blessed. And if it was only manifesting things, if that was all that was, then one could say, okay, this is just a little magic trick, anybody can pull this off. But I asked myself, what does this place represent? This place represents truth, this place represents love, this place represents service. If I look at the life of Sathya Sai Baba, he's certainly devoted himself in a far more selfless way. And he's been far more loving and giving, and he has all the values that I have within myself. I think he is a much better epitome of those values than even I am in my life, right? So when someone is a few steps ahead of you or many steps ahead of you, then that is enough for you to have faith. That is enough for you to look up to them and to see them as, you could say, a manifestation of your own higher self, of your own higher potential, right? So I felt very deeply grateful and blessed. And yeah, I just felt guided to share my experience. So it's beautiful when things happen uninvited. I was not looking for this. I was not expecting this. I was just doing my thing, doing my practice. But I feel a tremendous acceleration in my inner process, in my inner journey, and in the most unexpected way. I never considered myself a devotee of Sai Baba, either Shirdi Sai Baba or Sathya Sai Baba. I was never that interested. Yeah, I had respect from a distance, but not too much of interest. And maybe with Sathya Sai Baba, honestly, even had a little bit of skepticism. But these experiences are something that each one of us has to have for ourselves. These are things that you cannot, beyond a point, you can't explain these things. You can't argue these things. And I'm aware at present there is a kind of a division between the Sai devotees, because those at Puttaparthi believe that this whole Mudnahalli gang is a very, it's a big hoax. And they're talking about some light body. What is this light body? Anybody can come up with this. They have opened over 20 schools in the last 4 years, 2 hospitals. All of it is free of cost. They're feeding, I forget, it's 2 lakhs or 5 lakh children breakfast every single morning. If someone has to fool somebody, why would they make such a huge effort? Why would they make such a huge effort? Look at the work that's happening. So I'm very grateful that I got connected to this group. And I feel very privileged and honored that Swami has asked me to, spread his teachings all over the world, and I'm going to do my best to be involved with that and to be, really committed to that. What else can I share? I want to also say, this is something I haven't shared in the past, that when I was a Buddhist monk, there was another guidance that I received. A teacher called Avatar Babaji. Some of you may have read a book called Autobiography of a Yogi. And Paramahansa Yogananda, who wrote the book, his teacher. So teachers, right. So there's Yukteswar Giri, Shri Yukteswar Giri, and Lahiri Mahashaya, and then Avatar Babaji. This is a teacher who is in a light body, right? And we actually do have, our physical body is there, and then there's subtler bodies. It's as you practice, you start realizing physical body is not the only body. We're not just made of matter, we're made of energy. We're not just made of energy, we're made of light. We're not just made of light, we're made of consciousness. It's all consciousness. So as our practice deepens, this stuff is not so esoteric anymore. It actually becomes quite real for us. So Avatar Babaji made his presence known to me in many ways. And he is the one who guided me to, it's time now to move out of the robes, out of the monastic life, and start doing work in the world. And I felt very guided by him and by many other subtle teachers. So I don't talk about this much because these are things that not everybody believes in or not everybody understands. But because I have that direct experience, I tend to be more open to the possibility that teachers can teach in ways apart from just a physical form, right? So that's been my experience. For those of you who don't know who Sathya Sai Baba is, this is what he looked like when he was alive. He gave me this picture this time. Yeah, so just feeling very blessed and feeling very grateful and feeling very guided. Have a minute of silence and see if something else is coming. So life definitely has a sense of humor. Whatever you think you're never going to do or you're never going to be, whatever you think you'll never do or you'll never be interested in, you tend to get interested and you tend to start doing. So it's a lot of fun to observe that. This is what's called Leela, right? The play. This is the whole play of creation. And I'm enjoying this play. And for me, it's just a further step in recognizing that all is one. That everything is divine, we are all that, and we are waking up not only to our own divinity, but divinity that's all around us. And the more we wake up inwardly like that, we start recognizing our own inner God starts waking up. Just is, that which is, not the thoughts about and could be and would be and should be, just is. This right here is God awake. God is without judgments, comparisons, likes and dislikes. Everything is just the way it is. So, a person of limited self-knowledge and self-understanding will only see limitation everywhere. It takes a lot of, and I don't want to say that I am that ripened, but it does take a fair amount of ripeness to see past the Leela, to see past the play, and to see and to recognize someone who's truly there, someone who's truly clear and clean, right? So, in my case, I really feel that I have been very blessed to sthita pragya, some of my teachers, just being with them, I knew, oh my, this is such clarity, such clear love, purity and wisdom. And that's what I experienced with Sri Sathya Sai Baba in his light body. So, again, felt like sharing this morning, and I'll go back later and check some of your comments, and I'll see if I can reply to them. And I'll share a link of a couple of talks that I gave there. It's on YouTube, I'll look for it. All right, this is what I wanted to share. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and lots of love. Goodbye, and Happy New Year.